Peace, people. Grand Kush. Let's walk through Genesis. You notice when people talk about the Bible, they always talking about the New Testament. They never really start from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I think people stay in the New Testament, right? Because the New Testament is for sinners. You understand what I'm saying? Jesus Christ in the Bible said he came for the sinners. But in the Old Testament, it's not about mercy and forgiveness. You got to stand on your own accountability. But when you walk through Genesis, they don't want to touch Genesis because you got to have some questions, right? For people who really read their Bible, for people who really say they're Christians, you can't read Genesis and not have any questions. If you know about the origin of the Bible, the time in history that the Bible was compiled, and the older creation stories that predated. Let's walk through Genesis just for fun. Okay? So it says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And all the host of them, the Elohim. And on the seventh day, God ended his work, which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day. Now, God is Elohim. We know that now. God is Elohim, right? Some people say that's a singular plural, but if you read more ancient creation stories, there's more than one God, right? Okay, so, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made. Now, we go into 4, right? And this is where you got to start having some questions. These are the generations, okay? This is the lineage, the bloodlines of the heavens and of the earth when they were created. Okay, we got a bloodline and a lineage on earth, and we got a bloodline and a lineage coming out of the heavens. In the day that the Lord now, right? The day that the Lord, God, that's Yahweh Elohim, made the earth and the heavens. You see how they reverse that? At first, it's heavens and the earth. It's always been heavens and the earth. But then you get to the next part of the sentence, is Lord God made the earth and the heavens. And every plant of the field before was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God, Yahweh, Elohim, had not caused it to rain upon the earth, right? But in chapter 1, the Elohim brought all of this. You understand what I'm saying? But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yahweh Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground. This is repeated in the Quran when they talk about Adam being created out of the dust of the ground, or a black clay, or a black mud, and breathe into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Now, you can't say right here that Yahweh Elohim is a spook. Okay? And then we got to question the vocabulary. These are the generations, bloodlines, physical people of the heavens and the earth. And out of the heavens was Yahweh Elohim, who formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into it his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Okay, so from there, it compelled me to jump to some of these earlier creation stories, right? So this is the Atrahasis right here. And I'm going to read a little bit of it, skip through it, and get to where they create man. So it says, when the gods were man, they did forced labor, they bore drudgery. The Elohim, great indeed was the drudgery of the Elohim. The forced labor was heavy, the misery too much. Now the gods here would be the Anuna or the Anunnaki. And the video I just did earlier, previously, was explaining Elohim and Anunnaki, the connection given to us by the master teacher. Okay. Great indeed was the drudgery of the gods. The forced labor was heavy, the misery too much. Okay, the Anunnaki came down here to mine for minerals and resources. The work was too heavy for them, so they get to complaining. Okay, they get to complaining, and that's what all of this part is about. So I'm going to go down. Okay, so they rebelled so much, they didn't want to do the work. The gods didn't want to do the work. They're almost about to go to war. Okay, so the sons of Anu is present, and they're running the heavens and the earth. That's Enlil and Enki. Okay, so let's go and read. E made ready to speak and said to the gods, his brothers, what calumny do we lay to their charge? I don't know what that means, but their forced labor was heavy, their misery too much. Every day the outcry was loud. We could hear the clamor. There is Belet Ili, the midwife, is present. Let her create then a human, a man. Okay? Let him bear the yoke. Let him bear the yoke. Let man assume the drudgery of the God. So in the beginning it said when the gods were not man, right? They started this battle. Let the midwife create a human being. Let man assume the drudgery of the God. They summoned and asked the goddess, the midwife of the gods, wise Mammy, would you be the birth goddess, creatress of mankind? Create a human being that he bear the yoke. Let him bear the yoke, the task of Enlil. Okay, this was the work of Enlil, right? Let man assume the drudgery of the God. Nintu made ready to speak and said to the great gods, to the Elohim, it is not for me to do it. The task is Enki's. He it is that cleanses all. Let him provide me the clay, right? So I can do the making. So the clay, this is followed up. The black clay is followed up in the Quran. And you know they call the Anunnaki the black-headed gods, the black-headed ones. Enki made ready to speak and said to the great gods, on the 1st, 7th, and 15th days of the month, let me establish a purification, a birth. Let one god be slaughtered, then let the gods be cleansed by immersion. Let Nintu mix clay with his flesh and blood. Let the same God and man be thoroughly mixed in the clay. Let us hear the drum for the rest of the time. From the flesh of the God, let a spirit remain. Let it make the living know its sign. Lest he be allowed to be forgotten, let the spirit remain. The great Anuna gods who administer destinies answered yes in the assembly. Okay. Then it says, okay, it's repeated. You ordered me the task and I have completed it. You have slaughtered the God along with his inspiration. Okay. Now it goes down to Atrahasis, who in a sense is like Noah, right? When the humans was born, okay, on the planet, they grew in numbers and the gods got tired of them. Now look, it says Atrahasis received the command. He assembled the elders at his gate. Okay, elders can also be Elohim. Atrahasis made ready to speak and said to the elders, my God does not agree with your God. Enki and Enlil are constantly angry with each other. They have expelled me from the land. Okay, as you further go down, Atrahasis is told to make a boat, right? They're going to kill off the humans. And so let's jump back to Genesis, okay? Now, and the Lord Yahweh God formed a man of the dust of the ground and breathed into the nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Where did that come from? Okay, the Atrahasis and the books coming out of Ur of Chaldees. Remember, Abraham is from Ur of Chaldees. When you go back, you start going into Nanah Sin. Okay, his father's Enlil, the Ekor temple, their temples, the Sin temple on the Tigris Euphrates. Okay, so who is the God? That can be answered. That can be answered. Is it Is it Enlil? Is it Enki? Is it Yahweh? Is it Allah? Let's continue to go down. Now it tells you here. Let's see if we go back up. You guys can go read this for yourself. This is the Atrahasis. The Igigi gods dug the Tigris River and the Euphrates after that. So in this writing, where Abraham is coming from, it is stating that at one time on the planet Earth, those two rivers were not there. That the Igigi gods dug those rivers out. The gods were digging water courses, canals. They opened the life of the land. The Igigi gods were digging water courses, canals. They opened the life of the land. Okay. Go back to the Bible. It states that generations of heavens, generations of earth. So there had to be gods and humans on the planet, right? We're not getting into the race of them, okay? According to Nine Science, they were Hindus, right? Blacks with straight hair. But this is why you don't want to touch Genesis, because you got to tie it back. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food. The tree of life is also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, or Pison, or Pison. That is it, which compasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. Okay? And the gold of that land is good. How would they know that? If you go back to the previous stories, they are looking for resources. There is Bedulum and the onyx stone. How do they know this? And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasses the whole land of Ethiopia. You know, in the King James Version, that's Cush. Cush is not even born yet, but there's a land of Cush. Okay. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. Ashur is not even born yet. And the fourth is Euphrates. Okay. So the Hiddekel, I believe, is the Tigris. Okay. And it tells you that the Anunnaki, the Igigi, are the ones who created those two rivers. So where's Genesis being drawn from, right? When you talk about Genesis, you're talking about genes. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of God and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. What was it put there for? What was the temptation put there for? Isn't that temptation? Right? But he said, he told it to the man, right? To the man. Now, according to our information, this is not just Adam and Eve. This is a group of Adam and Eves. You understand what I'm saying? Because there has to be more people on the planet. Right? He didn't say anything to the female, to Eve. And the Lord said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. Okay. But there's got to be women on the planet. Right? And out of the ground, the Lord God, Yahweh, formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the earth, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name of thereof. There's already animals on the planet. And Adam gave names to all cattle, to the fowl of the air, every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmeet for him. That's weird. That sounds like some bestiality. Because what did Eve come for? That bear him kids and things of that nature, right? And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. Where did things like this happen to you? In the hospital, where they put you to sleep and they do surgeries. Don't that sound like a surgery? He caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord Yahweh had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. This is what Adam said, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Okay, so they butt naked out in the Garden of Eden. Now check this out. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. Remember, Yahweh created the beasts of the field, okay, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said. This is what the serpent said. Now, who is the serpent? They're having a conversation. Did God say, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, She ain't afraid of the serpent or nothing like that. They having a conversation. We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God, Elohim, now it's Elohim, hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest you die. And then the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die, for Elohim doth know that in the day you eat of it thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. Okay. What would they would have been before, or what would they would have been had not Eve had ate that apple or whatever it is to change up her stuff, change up her mind? What would these people be like? And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, now she came from Adam, hollering at the serpent. Adam gave her no commandments not to eat. We're not getting no other stories or anything like that. Did he talk to her 7 times and say, don't holler at the serpent? And a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So he didn't even reprimand her. He ate. After Yahweh said, don't eat. Now, how you create these beings and they not even listening to you? And the eyes of them both were opened. What does this mean? Okay, open like you do drugs, open like you drinking alcohol. You know what I'm saying? That's how we get open. Unless you're meditating, and they're not meditating, they've taken some type of intoxicant. And they knew then that they were naked. Okay, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. So they ate this, whatever they ate, this apple, this fruit, and they got intelligence immediately. And we got to think about this, man. What do you take that makes you intelligent or makes you appear to be intelligent? Okay? And they heard the voice of the Lord God. Now, this says Yahweh, but the Lord God is a title. This is not a name. It could be anybody walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. And Yahweh called out to Adam and said, where are you? He should know where he is, but where are you? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Okay. So he's not even supposed to be intelligent. Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee, fool, that thou shouldest not eat? What comes after that? A whooping. You didn't listen? You did something I told you not to do, fool? And the man said, the woman did it. Right? And then Yahweh said to the woman, what is this thou hast done? Why did Yahweh put it in there in the first place? And the woman said, they snitching. The serpent beguiled me. The serpent tricked me. Okay? And I ate. And the Lord said to the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and thus shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And so this sounds like the serpent took, Yahweh took the serpent's his legs and his arms and everything and just put them on the belly. I don't know if that necessarily means that. And thus shalt thou eat all the days of their life. They are of dust. And I will put enmity, hate between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception in sorrow, that shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Okay? He shall rule over thee. Unto Adam, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, curses the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field, right? And in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, which is Hawa, if you look at the Hebrew, because she was the mother of all living. Now, that title is an old title. Okay? Nintu was called also the mother of all living, if you go back into the Atrahasis. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothe them. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, where? And placed him in the east of the Garden of Eden, cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Okay, so they're in the Tigris and the Euphrates. Okay? And then you get to Cain. Cain kills Abel. Okay? Why are you pissed off, Cain? Right? And then you go down, and Cain said, My punishment is greater than I can bear, because I killed my brother. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and thou shalt be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. Okay, so who is on the planet? Adam, Eve, based on, if you're reading this and you're not breaking it down really, Abel is gone, and Cain is in the land of Nod. Who is going to slay him? And the Lord said, and Yahweh said, now it's just the Lord by himself, unto him, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. If you kill Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. Cain is being protected. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. You go down to Enoch, okay? The city of Enoch. It gives you his descendants. It goes down to Lamech, who now has 2 wives. Okay. You got Jubal. He was the father of all such as handling the harp and the organ. Tubal-Cain, instructor of every artificer in brass and iron smelting. Okay. And then it says, Lamech, I have slain a man to my wounding, and young man to my hurt, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. Okay? And then it jumps back to Adam having Seth, who had Enosh, and they called upon the name of the Lord. And this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, Elohim created man. In the likeness of Elohim made him, male and female created he them, and blessed them and called their name Adam. Can we get a breakdown on this? Okay. Where is this information coming from? Grand Kush. Peace.